Hi, this is Alexia from TechCrunch, and we are here at TechCrunch Disrupt conference in San Francisco with Dig founder or co-founder Kevin Rose.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So you just got off the stage with Mike after a particularly spicy interview.
Yeah, it was fun.
On
Mike's always a great guy to interview with.
He always makes you feel like you've done something wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, you don't know what, I mean, it's this vague feeling.
You always have to be on the edge. Like I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat thinking like, okay, what's he gonna ask? Because he's always sneaky like that.
Yeah, but he's always nicer than what you'd think.
Oh, for sure. Once you get to know him, you're like, oh, that's just Mike. Yeah, it makes sense.
And you guys were talking about the future of Dig. You've come under, I mean, just like Mike, you're probably really good at understanding how media works. And you've just come off of some crazy press due to the latest version of Dig, Dig version 4. Mm-hmm. And primarily because I guess you had a really passionate user base. And nobody likes change, as Zuckerberg has found out countless times. And you've also, this is your second revolt. Can you talk a little about how this happened? And
yeah, I mean, this is definitely more than number 2 as far as revolts are concerned for Dig. Like we've had over the last 6 years, there's been quite a few, and I think that each time we learned something different. And this time, I think that there was a couple things. One, we couldn't keep the servers up or the site live, so people were hearing about these new changes. They couldn't see them. They were frustrated. They were getting broken wagons, which is like our down page, all over the place, and it was a really frustrating thing just from trying to even access the new features. But on top of that, once we did finally stabilize things, we took away a lot of the features the core users were using. And Dig has a lot of traffic, over 1.2 million uniques per day. Of that traffic, there's a very small but passionate backbone to the community, and that's 20, 40, 50,000 people. That we took some of the core features that they use every single day away because we thought we had great alternatives and kind of replacements for that were better than the core features. So, if I had to do it all over again, I definitely would have kept all of those features around that we had on the old site, and then basically rolled out the new features and slowly integrated them and let the users try them out first, and then get a taste for the new features, and if they really like them, then finally cut over to everyone else.
So sort of how Twitter just rolled out the new Twitter?
Twitter did a amazing job rolling this out because they would let you jump back to the old version if you didn't like it. They were constantly collecting feedback via the hashtag, so they could jump in there at any time and see what users were liking, what they weren't liking, and it was just a really smart rollout. So that's a great model.
So I know a lot of the cause of this consternation with the new Dig is that a lot of people use the site because of the massive traffic. A lot of people, or namely publishers, use the site to produce what's called the Dig effect, which is a massive traffic spike to a homepage in verticals, right? And what's interesting is that the biggest critics of the new Dig are also people who made their livings getting traffic for publishers.
Sure.
And do you think that whatever products you're working on now will still retain this Dig effect? Like, what is the prominence of the Dig homepage currently, and what will it be 6 months down the line?
Well, the homepage right now is basically the zeitgeist of stories that the community is voting on right now, right? What we're trying to do, though, is get into a lot of these kind of verticals of interest. So hopefully when we get around to launching these features in the next few months, you'll see a Dig that allows you to jump into very small niche interests. So like if you're into something really obscure like Audi cars or knitting or tea or whatever it may be, you'll be able to jump into these areas, dig the stories that you like, gain a reputation around those stories, and then hopefully those will turn into like little miniature living and breathing communities. If we can unleash that to the whole long tail of content, we'll have a much bigger site than we have today. And I think that the homepage will always be one of the global zeitgeist, like what is going on that day within the entire Dig ecosystem. But we hope that these long tail verticals can grow to be even a bigger piece of traffic than what the homepage is today. It's not that way yet. But to answer your question about the people that are making their living off the front page and driving traffic to publishers, we've taken heat from a lot of people that don't like the changes because they take the power out of their hands. And this is there's people that are passionate about Dig, that dig for the purity and the pure reasons and the fact that they love the community. There's people that dig because they want to try and game the site. They want to try and drive traffic to their personal blog or a site that they're getting paid for. So, it's always a battle for us. We're a battle that we're going to have to constantly fight. It's like an arms race. It's like Google has to deal with the same issues when it comes to people trying to manipulate their SEO results. We have to deal with kind of the social voting side of the house. So, I think there's always going to be people writing negative press about Dig if we're making the playing ground a more neutral, kind of free playing ground, because people want to make money, and some people do make their living off of trying to game the site.
So this interest thing, how far along are you? Are you in testing? Are people responding well?
I think in the next week we'll roll out a feature that allows you to capture your interests. So you'll be able to type in your top 5 interests. And then once we have those interests, we'll start to be able to recommend stories to you based on those interests. And eventually we'll layer on some of the very basic game mechanics, such as leaderboards, such as you getting, more points and reputation based on how early you dig something that eventually becomes very popular in an interest category. So these are things that are really going to hopefully, set us apart from a Twitter or Facebook or someone else that people look at us and say, oh, that's your competition.
What do you think of Reddit? Because I mean that headline, Reddit eats Dig's lunch. Is this something that did they take advantage of the inevitable stumbles that a company will make if they're going to innovate and and try to improve their product to somehow get some media buzz around them and gain traffic? I mean, there was that whole thing where they had Reddit users submit Reddit links through a flaw, which was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, there's Reddit's been around for a long time. They launched 6 or so months after us, and I think that it really just comes down to which community you connect with. There's Reddit's has a very great comment community on their site. They have very active comment threads, and I think that it's really Reddit won't be the only one out there. There'll be a bunch of other players in this kind of social news game, and at the end of the day, it's where you decide to hang your hat and what community you kind of gel with. So they've been considered competition to us for us for a long time. Condé Nast bought them a while ago, and I don't know what the future of Reddit is. I don't know what those guys are building, but I definitely know for us it's kind of figuring out what we can do around people's individual interests.
So you mentioned to Mike on stage that you had a $80 million offer, $60 million cash, $20 million earnout. Any word on what company that was from?
We signed so many documents saying that we can't disclose that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it.
Do you think you'll get something bigger in the future? I
mean, for us, Dig is in the double digits of millions of dollars in revenue per year. We got to get the product right first. I don't think an outcome for us is in the near future. I think that we really have to figure out who we are, and we have to try and carve out a name for ourselves that is one that's much bigger than what we are today. We could be, we could restore all the Dig V3 features and just be this big kind of social news site that just sits there and hums along, and we could do that with 10, 15 employees and be very profitable, have that be our product, or we can kind of swing for the fences and try some bigger things. And I think for us, this next year or 2 years is going to be really about trying some of these bigger things and just trying to hopefully, create a service that's useful to a lot more people than just, the people that come for the funny videos and things like that, which is fine, which is great, but we want to try to service and be a service that, my mom or someone else would use, a much broader audience.
So you're saying you're in it for the long haul?
I'm definitely in it to try and get this thing back on track and get the community back on our side and fix some of the problems that we have and try new stuff. So
cool. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.